Hello and welcome. Today we are going to dive into the world of constraints, which are powerful tool for managing your product schedule in both Primavera P6 and MS product. So think of constraints as a rules you apply to specific activities to control their timing. So they are essential for making sure your product timeline is realistic and meet all the necessary deadlines. Okay, so let's start with the soft constraints. So I like to call these the flexible guidelines. So they set a boundary for an activity's start or finish date, but they would not interfere with the project's logic unless they absolutely have to. So this gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay, so let's see what we have under the soft constraint. So first we have here the start on or after. So you can see in a bracket early start constraint. So activity cannot start before our specified date. So example we have here the excavation cannot start before January 5th, 2025. So permit is required. Here I have added a very a clear example constraint date. You can see we have January 5th, 2025. So the red line, that is the constraint date, January 5th, 2025. So green we have here the activity task. You can say task name is the excavation. Okay, so red, you can see I have explained here red line, red dash line, constant date, and then green bar excavation activity starting after 5th. Okay, so this constraint is a way of saying the activity cannot start before a specific date. For example, if we have an activity called excavation, like here in a picture, and we need to get a permit before we can start digging. So we might set a constraints that say excavation cannot start before January 5th, 2025, because that's when we expect the permit to be approved. So the activity can start on the January 5th or later, but never before. Okay, so I think this example is clear. So next we have here finish on or after. So late finish constraints, you can see here the soft constraints finish on or after. So constant date we have here the April 20th. So here you can see this example is very clear. uh, Dotted lines, the red dotted lines, constant state, April 20, landscaping activity. The blue is the actually activity. And red dash line, you can see constant date. Then the blue bar, landscaping activity finish after April 20. Okay, so activity cannot finish before you can say a specified date. Example, we have here landscaping finishes after April 2025. So, in the bracket, we have mentioned here weather dependent. So, now this is the opposite of the previous one. It means an activity cannot finish before a certain date. So let's say we have landscaping and we know the weather wouldn't be suitable until the late spring. So we could use this constant to say landscaping must finish after April 20th, the 2025. So this prevent the activity from being scheduled too early. So I hope this example is clear. So next we have here a start on or before. Late start constraint. So activity cannot start after a specified date. Example, training must start by 1st May 2025. So training activity, here we have the training activity, that is the orange color, and constant date we have 1st May. So 1st May, and then training orange bar you can see here, that is the training activity starting before 1st May. This one sets a deadline for an activity start. Imagine a training session that has to happen before a new software rollout. So we would use this constant to say training must start by May 1st, 2025. So this means the activity needs to begin on or before that date. Otherwise, the software will flag it. Okay. So the next example we have here, the next constant we have here finish on or before. It's mean early finish constant. So activity cannot finish after a specified date. Example, product shipment must be completed by July 30th, 2025. So here you can see we have the constant date 31st July and project activity we have here. So this similar to the last one. This sets a deadline for an activity's completion. If we have a critical, product shipment, so to the customer, so we might set a constant that says product shipment must be completed by July 31st, 2025. So this activity will be scheduled to finish on or before that date. Okay, sir. So next we have one more constraint under soft constraint. So as late as possible. So delays activity as much as possible without affecting the critical path. Example: non-essential training delays to free resources for the critical task. So let's start to understand from the picture soft constraints as late as possible. So critical path July 31st we have here. Then possible start you can see we have the 1st January. It is the earliest hour possible. Then shift it to the latest here you can see. Okay, as late as possible start. Okay, so we have it July 11. So example, non-essential training delayed to the free resources for critical tasks. So this is a great tool for maximizing the efficiency. So the as late as possible constraints tells the software to schedule an activity as late as it can without affecting the project's overall end date. So we often use this for non-critical tasks like the administrative work or non-essential training to free up resources for the tasks that are more urgent. Okay. So after that, we have the hard constraints. So these are the you can say the strict rules of project management software. They are much more rigid and powerful. And when you use a hard constraint, you are forcing an activity to start or finish on a specific fixed date, no matter the what. So they will actually override the logical relationships you have set up. Okay, so you need to be very careful with these hard constraints. Okay, so next, let's see what under hard constraints we have. So first we have the start on. So here you can see forces activity to start on a specific date. Example: inspection must begin on April 10th, 2025. Here you can see we have the deadline. Okay, April 10th, 2025. So this is actually hard constraint. So uh, this is a simple but powerful one. It forces an activity to begin on an exact date, no exceptions. So a good example is a required inspection. If the inspector is only available on a specific day, so you would use these constraints to say inspection must begin on April 10th, 2025. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So next one we have finish on. So forces activity to finish on a specific date. Example, deliver able must be completed by June 15, 2025. So here you can see we have the finish on June 15, 2025. So this force, this constraint of finish on forces an activity to finish on an exact date. For instance, if you have a contract that requires a specific deliverables to be completed by a certain date, so you would use these constants to say deliverable must be completed by June 15, 2025. So I hope this is clear. So next one we have mandatory start. So fixed start date ignores the logic and it calculated start. Example, you have here the groundbreaking ceremony on 10th Feb 2025. Here you can see we have the hard constant mandatory start ignores the logic. So this is one of the most powerful constants. It completely locks an activity start date and ignores all other product logic and dependencies. So it's an absolute, you can say, anchor. For example, groundbreaking a ceremony on February 10th, 2025 is a fixed non-negotiable event. So no matter what happens with the other task or activities, so this one uh, start date will not change at any cost. Okay. So I hope this is clear. So move next. Next we have mandatory finish. So fixes finish date, ignores the logic and calculated finish. Example we have here the government inspection concludes by October 30th, 2025. So here you can see mandatory finish. Okay, so this is the you can say equivalent to an mandatory start, but for the end date, it looks you know it locks the activity's finish date and override all other logics. So it's often used for hard and fast deadlines, such as the government inspection that concludes by the October 30th, 2025. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so next we have the key considerations. So these are the really important things to remember. You can see here. So before you apply the constants everywhere, here are the few key points you should always keep in your mind. First, we have the constant precedence. So most you can say the restrictive constant applies if the multiple exist on the same activity. So if you apply multiple constants to the same task or a same activity, so the software will only honor the most restrictive one. It's smart enough to figure that out, but it's good for you to be aware of it. Okay, so second we have the constant versus the dependencies. So dependencies control the sequence constant and then restrict start and finish. A hard constant can be override logical relationships. So you can say this is the common point of confusion actually. Remember, dependencies control the sequence of the task. Task A must be finished before task B can start. This was the example. And so the constant simply restrict when a task can start or finish. So a hard constants can actually break a logical dependencies, which is why you have to be so careful with them. Okay. So number third, we have constants violations. So check schedule log for the violation. Violations can delay the project or create conflicts. Okay, so after you have applied the constraints and reschedule your project, so you must look at the schedule log. So that is very important. Okay, so the software will tell you if any of your constraints are the conflicting with your product logic. So these violations are a red flag and can lead to unexpected delays, or you can say scheduling conflicts. Okay. So next we have number four, impact on critical path. Hard constraints may alert critical path. Soft constraints usually maintain logical critical path. So hard constraints can and often will change your product's critical path. So soft constraints typically would not. So this is another reason why you should use hard constraints carefully. So then change. Because these constraints can change your timeline as well. Okay, so after that, we have here the best practices, perfect soft constraints for the flexibility. Use hard constraints sparingly for the legally fixed dates. Then always reschedule after adding the constraints to review the impact. So my general advice is to prefer soft constraints because they give you a more flexible and realistic schedule. Only use hard constraints for truly fixed date, like the legal deadlines or a required event. And the most importantly, always reschedule your project after adding or changing constraints to see the impact. Okay, so never forget to check the view log. Okay. So I hope the constants are clear. So now let's move to the Primavera P6 and let's learn how we can apply these constants in Primavera P6 for our activities. So here we have the Primavera P6 tool. You can see here our project schedule is open. Okay, so let me show you how we can apply and how we can use these constraints in Primavera P6. So first we will choose any specific task, then right click, then click on activity details, then bottom window you can see bottom window will appear, then click on the status, and here you can see we have the constraints. So here we have the the primary constraints and the secondary constraints. So if you click on drop down, so usually by default we will have none. And next, let me choose any constraints. Let me choose the start on. So it's mean you can see this task will be locked on the this first March 2025, and you can see here the symbol. Actually, the star indicates that we have assigned constraints on this task. You can see here the star symbol. And let's take one more example, finish on. So now we have locked this 8 March for this task to finish. You can see here, again, we have here the start symbol here. Okay, so let's take one more example for the constraints. If I click on drop down, so finish on or after. So uh, we can set the dates. Let's suppose we have here 8 March. Sorry, to 8 March. So let me choose the 8 March. This is finish on or after. So I will finish on before. So I will choose. Let's suppose 10. So it's mean we have assigned the milestone for this task. Okay. So you can choose the required milestones from this, like this, by clicking on the drop down. So you can choose the star milestones. Okay, and mandatory finish. Then you can see here mandatory start. So you can also choose the dates as well for the constraint. So like this, we can assign the milestones in Primavera P6. P6. Okay, so I hope this is clear.